Welcome to Tech Challenge Makers Conquer E-commerce. I'm Elise, your resident tech expert and author of the book Browser versus Buyer. I've worked with entrepreneurs for over 6 years, and I've helped hundreds of creatives overcome their technology fears. Gain clarity and direction in your business with Elise's E-commerce Elevator 6-month group coaching program. Join now at myscheduledbiz.com/elevator. The link is in the show notes. Today, we're going to be talking with Holly Marsh from Ecommerce Arcade all about branding your e-commerce business. Holly helps you level up your e-commerce game with strategy, design, and heart. She is an illustrator and branding designer and has a decade of experience selling products online and in person. Holly springboarded into services after spending 10 years at the helm of her handmade business named Marsh Mueller, a line of accessories for babies and kids using colorful and quirky fabrics. Holly lives in Astoria, Oregon. Yeah, that's where they filmed The Goonies, with her husband, 2 children, a geriatric Pomeranian, and a rambunctious tuxedo kitten. On any given day, you may find Holly nerding out, playing board games with her family, drawing, playing video games, getting woo-woo with tarot and astrology, or squeezing in a round of golf. She does prefer pie over cake, but won't say no to cake unless it has coconut. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand why branding is so important to your business, the technology that you can use to help you with your branding, and of course, walk away with one action step. So Holly, I am so glad to have you here to share your expertise with the Bizzers. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and your experience with e-commerce?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Elise. I'm so excited to be here. So I currently run 2 businesses. One is a services business called Ecommerce Arcade. And like Elise said, that's where I help folks level up, whether it be their website, their email, or their branding with strategy and with heart, because we're all humans, and I think that's important. I also run an illustration business called Holly Marshmallow. It is my pivot away from my handmade business called Marsh Mueller that I ran for over a decade.
That is awesome. Okay, so Holly does it all. So if you need help with those things, you guys know that I am not the biggest fan of having to deal with email, so she can help you with that. And we share a love for Shopify, so you're in good hands for a website as well. And of course, today we're talking all about branding. So talking about branding, Holly, can you tell us what branding actually is and how it impacts sales? Before we jump into the rest of the episode, please share this podcast with other business owners that it can help. Also, be sure to stick with me to the end of the episode to learn your challenge for today and implement what you've learned.
Yeah. So one misconception about branding is that it's your logo and it's only your logo. And I usually respond to folks who say that with yes, and, because it's usually also tangible things, whether it be your logo or your collateral. So what I mean by collateral is like things that are you get printed on business cards or packaging or your unboxing experience. But it's also more abstract things. So like a feeling or a ways that you're remembered or the tone of voice and the words that you use in your business. And that can be really important to figure those out and kind of set yourself up for success by kind of drawing some boundaries around those things of what would your business say or not say, or how would your business take the tone with a certain topic. It also does include your logo, but also it's your color palette and your typography and just the overall vibe that you want to convey. And it should, in a perfect world, align with your target customer. And I know that sometimes that's really a tall order for a lot of folks. I know that when I first started my business, my handmade business, that I just kind of stumbled through it and kind of designed something that was very clean and modern looking. So it was very, very different from, the fabrics and stuff that I was selecting and using in my creations. And over time, I realized that's not quite who my target customer is. So I opted to go through the tediousness of a target customer exercise. And I did the work, like kicking and screaming along the way, just because it's a lot of deep thinking that can take some time. But I'm really glad I did, because once I did, I knew who my target customer was. I felt comfortable talking to her, and designing everything else from that point on was just smooth sailing. But sometimes you kind of have to stumble through first.
And I mean, it impacts sales because if you're talking, if everything you're putting out there is to the wrong person, they're going to come to your site and not want to buy what you have, right? So,
Right. And also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, and also like if you feel like you want to just talk, oh, you serve everyone, because it's really hard to kind of wrap your mind around. I'm just talking to one person. It feels like you're leaving money on the table. You could be leaving out people, and in some cases, it's okay to leave out some people who aren't like your target customer. But chances are there's going to be folks who also resonate with what you're saying to that target customer too.
Yeah. And when you can hit somebody and they feel like, oh, she gets me, they're going to come back to you again and again. And it makes it a lot easier. That's not to say that someone else can't buy from you, because people can buy from you even if they're not your target customer.
Exactly.
But that makes it easier for them to find you and to feel connected. You know, it's like if your brand is really witty and sarcastic and all of a sudden you put out this weirdly political and hardline kind of thing, they're not going to relate to that. On the other hand, if that's what you do, is all you talk is politics and things, and you're very much like, this is the way that it is, then people expect that from you. And so meeting the expectations of what you put out there is really important. So if you've got a disconnect between your brand and your products, like Holly was talking about, you're not going to get the right people coming to your site to buy. And so, yeah, it really, really impacts your sales, whether or not you're able to connect with your people and they know what they're going to get from you.
Right. And also like with repetition too, like Elise said, they come to expect that. And even if they're new to your brand and they're not familiar with it, by showing up consistently with that repetition with that really solid brand identity, it builds trust over time to whether, like Elise said, that's exactly what they come to expect. So it creates this really great bond between business and customer.
Yeah, 100%. So here on this podcast, we talk a lot about tech. And so Holly is going to share with you guys a little bit about the ways that tech impacts what you do with your branding and maybe what you should be looking out for when you're talking about tech and branding.
Yeah, so the great thing about branding when it comes to tech is it doesn't require nearly as much as like a website or email. So yay, we can celebrate in that. However, there is a little bit of things you should know and be equipped with if you decide to seek out a brand identity designer. And that is knowing where you're at in your own tech journey and communicating that to whoever you're working with. So if you're really just kind of getting your toe in the water, express that you would like tutorials of here, I don't know how to set this up for my printer when I go to get my packaging printed or my business cards printed. Can you walk me through how I use this file that you delivered to me to where I can make sure that my business cards are printed correctly? Or if they can set them up for you based on the printer that you've selected, even better. But I think that that's kind of the biggest hurdle that I see a lot with clients, that I really try to help them bridge that gap, so that way they don't have to try to find my information, years down the road. They know exactly where to go and they say, oh, this tutorial is here and I'm going to set this up here. Another way you can think about the tech when it comes to your brand identity is incorporating it in the things that you're designing for your brand. So if you're doing social media marketing and you want to create a graphic or a post, incorporating that, you can use things like Affinity Designer. You can use the Adobe Creative Suite of products if you're comfortable with those. But if you're not comfortable with those, yay, you don't have to worry about that. If you're a paid Canva Pro user, you can just add your colors and your typography and your logos in there. And all of a sudden you've got some really great cohesive marketing materials.
And with Canva, it's really nice because you save those in as your brand and you click them and they just change all the colors for you and it's done. And Serif, which is who does Affinity, is an amazing way to go about getting a very good photo editor as well. So if you're looking for something like that, yeah, I highly recommend Serif Affinity as well. So yeah, that's what you need to know. I know we talked about before we hit record, but we didn't mention it this time, is understanding the difference between a PNG and a JPEG, because it matters when you need to use your logo somewhere else. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I'm so glad that you reminded me of that, because I was like, oh no, I think there was something else I needed to say. And that is making sure that when your brand designer delivers your files to you, meaning like your logo, your color palette, your typography, like all of that info, make sure that they are delivering to you the files that you can actually use. So sure, they can send you a PDF that folks can open in Illustrator, but that doesn't help you if you don't use Illustrator or have the program. You'll want your logos in a PNG format. And that usually means instead of the little .jpg or JPEG at the end of the file name, it'll have .png. And the difference between the two is a PNG has the ability to have a transparent background and it's vectorized. So it can scale really, really big without getting all pixelated, because JPEGs use the little squares, and they're all pixelated. And JPEGs tend to have a white background. So if you're designing something or someone's designing something for you, and they opt to use a different colored background than white, they're going to have a rectangle or a square that's white, and it doesn't quite look as cohesive or as like on brand as you would probably like. So just be sure to make sure that they deliver those to you. And ideally your logo in black and white, but also in a reverse colorway, meaning like if whatever is typically black is white. So then that way, if it's on like a dark background, it can still stand out and still look like your business's brand identity.
Yeah. So guys, that's a lot of tech actually, even though it's not super complicated. It just starts at the beginning, right? You just need to make sure from the beginning you get the right things, and then you should be set to go. But yeah, so lots of different ways we can handle that here. So I have one question that is kind of my favorite to ask, partially because a lot of people can't seem to actually answer it. They can't say just one thing. And that question is, what is one thing that you would tell the listeners today what they need to be doing to build a brand identity?
I would say, and it depends on where they're at. If they kind of don't know who their target customer is, I recommend starting with it, like finding an ideal customer avatar exercise. You can Google one, see if you can find one. They'll ask things like, what does your customer do on the weekends? Who are they? How old are they? All of that stuff. I recommend just doing the work. It's not the most exciting thing, but it helps really build a strong foundation. If you have a really established brand identity, and let's say that your goal is to have a really unforgettable unboxing experience, but you've kind of started to price things out and it's very expensive and very daunting, I suggest just starting with one thing. Just even packaging tape or tissue paper or a sticker, just one of those things starting off can make opening your package that much more memorable. And then, look down the road, maybe a month or even 6 months down the road, and add that next thing with your unboxing experience. So little by little, you'll have a really cohesive unboxing experience, but it doesn't have to happen right away.
So I love that. So you 100% just did what I always say everybody does. You actually gave us 2 steps, right? So depending upon where you are. So
exactly.
Either figure out who your ideal customer is. And I know I talk a lot about doing polls and questionnaires. So sometimes when people talk about your ideal customer, they want you to basically guess these things. But if you have customers already, you can actually ask them to tell you, which I have found eye-opening and is definitely an excellent tip. And then if you're already established and you're trying to get more, depending upon your brand, pretty or whatever, into your packaging, then just choose one thing first and start there. And I think that's excellent. Was there anything else that you wanted to tell the visitors today about branding before we close out?
I'd say that, Elise has a really great point about polls. So let's say that you've done the work with your target customer, you've got a really strong brand identity. It's a good idea to every once in a while just poll them, just to kind of make sure that you're still in line with that. And if the ship needs to shift a little bit in direction based on the amount of people that you polled and if it's shifted. So I think that's really important to continue asking your customers and listening to your customers.
Okay, so guys, that's all. Thank you so much for joining me, Holly. I know you have an opt-in for the Bizzers. Did you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Yes, I have a download called 25 Ideas for Your Email Welcome Series. And it basically offers a lot of different suggestions of topics you can use when crafting your email welcome series. And what I mean by an email welcome series is that it's an automation, so that when someone signs up for your mailing list, they automatically get these emails dripped out, let's say like a week apart or whatever cadence you'd like it to be sent. I don't recommend using all 25 email ideas because that'd be a very, very long welcome series, but you can even use them in campaigns down the road. But yeah, I really like coming up with brainstorming ideas for clients. And so I wanted to do that for folks who were interested. So to get that, they can go to my website, which is ecommercearcade.com, and they can sign up via the pop-up, or they can sign up via, there's a bunch of fields all throughout the website, including in my footer, so they can sign up there as well.
All right, so the link will be here on the video and in the description below. You can just click it there. And one last thing, where can they connect with you? Where would you like them to go if they wanted to reach out to you?
Well, they can contact me via my website, or Instagram probably is the best way. I don't tend to check Facebook as often as I used to. And actually LinkedIn is okay too, but they can also send an email. I'm not the best with email. Email's kind of my kryptonite. So if they haven't heard from me in a couple of business days, like it's okay to send a nudge as well.
So guys, those links will all be here as well. Make sure you reach out to Holly. She would love to help you with your branding if you're ready to jump into that. And she also does email and websites if you need help with those. Thanks again, Holly, for joining us. And I hope to collaborate with you again soon. Actually, that reminds me, we also should talk about Craftcation. Holly and I will both be speaking there. It is April the 19th of 2023. So depending upon when you're watching / listening, if we haven't passed that date, you should go check it out and sign up. We'd love to see you there. And I think that's everything. Did I miss anything, Holly?
No, I think that and Craftcation usually sells out. So, and I think mid-February is about when they're gonna maybe even do be kind of done selling tickets. So hop on that. It's amazing. It's a really great conference in Ventura, California. And I'm excited to meet Elise in person there.
Yeah, and if you miss it for 2023, they do it every year. So go find it and sign up now whenever you're listening or watching. And I know, Holly, you've been going for quite a few years, and I have planned to return. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thanks again, Holly, and I hope to collaborate with you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Want more help with your e-commerce brand? Subscribe to Tech Challenge Makers Conquer E-commerce on your favorite podcast platform so that you don't miss any of the episodes that are released every week to help you grow your e-commerce shop. Also, please leave us a review so that we can help even more e-commerce shop owners. Thanks for listening. See you next week right here on Tech Challenge Makers Conquer E-commerce.